In this media, you will learn about skinning of cable insulation. You can skin the cable insulation using different tools like knife or manual stripper. It is easier to use knife rather than using the manual stripper to strip the cable insulation. If you use knife, wear hand gloves for your safety. First, take a cable of required length. At one end of the cable, mark the length of insulation to be skinned. Keep the knife at an angle of 25 degrees at one hand and hold the cable at the other hand. Now remove the cable insulation at the marked point. Gently slide the knife along the length of the cable towards the cable end. While cutting with knife, make sure that the conductors do not get damaged. After cutting, clean the conductor using a soft brush to remove any foreign materials and dust. Next, you will learn about skinning using a stripper. Mark the length from the end of the cable from which the insulation is to be skinned. Now, use a diagonal plier to trim the cable at the marked ends. Insert marked area of the cable conductor into the jaws of manual stripper. Press and turn the handle of the stripper to cut the insulation. Pull out the plier sideways to remove the insulation. To expertise with wire stripper skinning, practice to skin more number of cables. Thus, you have learnt about skinning of cable insulation. In this media, you will learn about stripping of cable insulation. While cutting with knife or plier, make sure that the conductors do not get damaged. First, take a flat twin-core cable and straighten it so that it can be easily stripped off. Mark a point in the cable covering from where the insulation is to be removed. Firmly hold the cable at one hand and using an electrician knife, cut the insulation around the circumference of the marked point. Pull out the plier sideways to remove the insulation. Now, take a 3-core cable and straighten it. Mark the length from the end of the cable from which the insulation is to be skinned. Using the diagonal cutting plier, cut the cable covering along the length of the cable up to the marked position. Then cut the cable insulation on the mark along the circumference of the cable. Now, the cable insulation was stripped off to the required length. Thus, you have learned about stripping of cable insulation using cutting plier. In this media, you will learn how to connect a cable to a 3-pin plug. Take a 3-pin plug and open the plug cover using the screwdriver. It has 3 pins, such as phase or live, neutral, and earth. Cable gripper is used in the plug to hold the cable firmly inside the plug. Take a 3-core cable and remove the outer jacket at one end of the cable for about 25 millimeters, or 1 inch, using a knife. Inside the cable, you will see 3 wires. Each wire has color identification for wiring purpose. Strip off the insulation from the 3 wires at their end using the knife. While removing insulation, make sure that conductors do not get scratched or damaged. Loosen the screws in the housing of the plug and cable gripper using the screwdriver. Now, insert the prepared cable ends into the plug through the cable gripper. Each wire should be connected with appropriate screw terminals of the plug. Tighten all the screws and then cover the plug. Thus, you have learned how to connect the cable with the 3-pin plug. In this media, you will learn about crimping of cable ends with lugs. Different compression connectors, or lugs, are available to crimp the cable ends. Connectors are selected based on both electrical and mechanical requirements. Compression connectors are made to maintain pressure by compressing the connector around the conductor with suitable crimping tool. Take a multi-strand copper conductor cable and suitable compression connector. The connector should match with cable wire thickness. Now, insert the end of the twisted wire into the connector terminal. Connect the connector with crimping pliers, matching the position of the jaws. Apply light pressure by squeezing the handles of crimping tool. Hence, the connector and wire get compressed properly. Check for any loose connections by pulling the cable from the compression connector or lug. If the wire does not come out or does not feel loose, then that crimping is good. Some problems you may come across while crimping are shown. If the crimping looks not good, the cable ends should be crimped again. By following the same procedure, you can make different sizes of cable end terminations. Thus, you have learnt about crimping of cable ends. In this media, you will learn how to make simple twist joints in cables. First, we will see how to make straight joint. Take 2 pieces of PVC copper cables of required length. Mark the length from the end of the cables from which the insulation is to be skinned. Using a knife, remove the insulation of the 2 cables of marked length. Place the conductors facing each other at an angle of 45 degrees from the ends. Make a twist so that the conductors are closely held. Remove the excess length of the conductor using side cutter. Smoothen the sharp edges of the conductors using a flat file to avoid sharp edges. This straight joint is used to extend the length of the cable wherever required. Now, let us see how to make rat tail joint. Take 2 pieces of PVC copper cables and straighten them. Using a knife, remove the insulation of the 2 cables of required lengths. Clean the conductor surfaces and place the conductors in parallel. Make a twist as shown such that the twist is tight and secure. This rat tail joint is used in junction box for connecting branch circuits. This type of joint can't withstand high stress. Thus, you have learned about simple twist joints in cables.